Sup, everyone? It's Elijah with the Side Hustler Society. Hopefully, y'all are having a pretty good day, week, month. Just overall good in general. Real excited for today's episode because, as y'all know, we focus on lead generation for this season of the Side Hustler Society podcast. And a big part of lead generation can actually be networking. We meet people throughout our day to day lives. Either we become friends, associates, contacts, just various categories, if you will, but all this falls under the category of networking, whether we realize it or not. The only difference is people who network are doing it intentionally. So now that we know that, well, networking becomes a tool that we can use to generate leads, whether it be immediately if we just happen to have something that can serve their needs and things line up, or in the future when they can afford to buy things from us, or when we develop products and services in the future that then serve their needs. They'll already be in our network and know more about us. So it's that much easier to quote unquote close the sale. Joining us in today's episode is someone who I consider to be a super connector. I've seen him in action and he knows how to forge relationships just very fast the moment he enters in a room. And when I say very fast, I don't mean like he speaks 3 words and then a relationship is forged. I mean, the moment he enters the room, he gets to work on getting to know everyone, connecting everyone, and building rapport. That's one thing I respect about him. And to be honest, I was probably going to do this episode at some point solo because networking is so important. And I'm a serial networker myself. But it's great to have another person to bounce these concepts and ideas off of so that y'all can see from both of our experiences the benefits that networking really has. Those of y'all that watched my Vid Summit review, y'all probably will recognize him from the panel that we had, G-Wiz. But yeah, we actually met at a Vid Summit, so a networking event. And quite naturally, you could probably assume with us both being heavy networkers, we're going to cross paths eventually. His name is Gregory Rutledge, aka G-Wiz, and he is a high performance coach, empowerment strategist, and the visionary behind the Question Everything brand. He's not your typical speaker, he's the one who digs deep, asking the hard questions that others avoid, and shattering the limitations that hold people back. With a dynamic blend of raw personal experiences, transformational insights, and unapologetic honesty, Gregory helps coaches, creators, and business professionals unlock the power they didn't know they had. His journey spans from surviving life's toughest challenges to mastering UX design, entrepreneurship, and the art of storytelling. Now he's on a mission to show the world that real growth begins when you embrace your fears, confront your failures, and question the status quo. Gregory's signature approach combines high level strategy, focus mastery, and a relentless curiosity that inspires his audience to not just dream, but to rise, transform, and conquer. He's a coach who won't let you settle for average because he's walked the path from doubt to destiny and knows there's always more to discover. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and bring him on the show and get started.
Welcome to the Side Hustlers Society podcast, the place where you can find out more about the hustles that are best for you. And of course, make more money in the process. Elijah has been in the gig economy and freelance space for over 8 years and has done over 4,000 deliveries on Uber Eats. Has several video editing clients, many properties on Airbnb, runs multiple YouTube channels, and is the author of the best-selling book, The Anatomy of Financial Success. It's his mission to empower people with the tools needed to be successful. Now, welcome your host, the king of the side hustles, Elijah Bilel.
All right, G-Wiz, we're officially on. How's your day going so far?
And my day is fantastic. I've had time to spend with my children and my children's children. Yeah, went out to have some delicious ramen. My granddaughter's downstairs, so when this is over, I'm gonna cuddle her. Yeah, it's a good day. And I woke up today. That's a bonus.
Yeah, I guess we take that for granted too much, huh?
Hey, absolutely. It's the little things, man.
Right. How was the ramen?
We went to Wabi House in Fort Worth, and the ramen is good. The Karagi chicken is really why I go. Robin just happens to be there, but the Karagi chicken is my thing. Anything that crispy and that delicious should be illegal, and I'm glad it's not.
Got you. Okay. Huh. Yeah, I'm actually kind of curious. Do you think that spot has any vegan options, like some kind of tofu, or not sure?
Oh, that's a good question. I know they had the veggie noodles, but a lot of their stuff, like the ramen is pork broth. I don't know if they have anything vegan, but I didn't check. Now
Hmm.
I feel bad. I forget.
It's
Sometimes,
not like you knew the check going into it. So like, yeah, I could look it up, later. But I did get kind of curious since you did bring up food.
yeah, and we are foodies at the heart.
Right, right. So yeah, it's good to hear you've been doing well. You're what I like to call like a super connector, because when it comes to networking, I would say it's not that common to meet someone that really knows not only how to network but does it so good, so eloquently. And since we are focusing on lead generation on this season, I
Okay.
actually just recorded a podcast where I talked about sociality, building your social skills, and networking. So I think this is actually going to be a great follow up episode. But a lot of people just assume sales. They have this preconceived notion of when they just sit down with someone, it's a complete stranger. They give their pitch and then they say yes or no. And that's hard sales.
Mhm.
That's fine. But I want to say the majority of life is really soft sales.
Yeah.
And these are when you're meeting people on an everyday basis. Then they get to know what you do. And then later on down the line, maybe they need your service or they may know someone that needs your service.
Mm.
And a lot of people don't picture that when they think of sales or just living life. They think of the hard sales, kind of like stereotype.
Yeah, the stereotypical door to door, cold calling. Let me just talk to as many people because people are numbers. And so the more people I talk to, the more odds I have of getting a person to say yes. So suffering through the nose. Yeah, there's some really bad teaching and thinking behind sales right now. And I love what Myron Golden's doing because he's undoing that.
Hmm.
I feel like, everyone has an audience that they can specifically speak to. And there's some people that I can reach that he can't. And there's some people he can reach that I can't. And so I'm looking to start teaching people these better sales methods. Because really, we say sales, it's really just building connections. And you hit the nail on the head. It's not about the hard sales, it's about soft offers or soft, not even sales, offers and soft offers. So you have, you know, an offer that you're definitely giving someone, like, because they've been, I hate to say pre-indoctrinated, but they've kind of begun to know, like, and trust you. And so then you can make that offer because they've spent time with you, they've spent a little money with you, and they know who you are and how you do. And so they're kind of expecting you to make an offer. It almost is illegal or an insult for you not to make them an offer at that point. And then you have soft offers where it's like you get to know the person genuinely, right? And you find out what their problem is, and then you position yourself as the solution if you have one, or you connect them to someone else. Because we come into sales thinking that it's about us, and that's the wrong way of thinking. If it's about us, we have to convince them to get something from us because we need it or for our reasons. True sales is persuasion. We are helping people to make a decision they already wanted to make before they knew who we were, and we're just helping guide them to the best way to make that solution for them, whether it's with us or not. And even if you guide someone towards someone else and that person makes a sale, you still look like a star, right? It doesn't always have to end with you. But if, as long as you help them make a decision that helps them to grow and helps them be better, I think that's really what the goal should be in sales, is helping people.
Yeah. In fact, there's a quote from Robert Kiyosaki's one of his books on leadership, and people don't take this as an endorsement for Robert Kiyosaki. No,
Hmm.
I'm just saying that I've read his books and I rock with a lot of his material, but I'm not endorsing the Rich Dad Company per se.
Hmm.
But back to the point, he has this saying where in sales, if you've been through any kind of sales training, there's the ABCs that stands for always be closing. And that kind of fits into that stereotypical jargon that we just discussed.
Yeah.
But he has a different acronym that stands for always be caring. And if you're always be caring, you can direct them in the directions they need to go. Sometimes it's with you, sometimes it's with someone else.
Yeah.
And you could set a relationship with these other people that can compensate you for sending them their way. That way everyone benefits. And even if you don't have something like that set up, the universe is keeping track. So this is when you get a call out of nowhere, like, hey, I saw your webpage online. I saw that you had this service. I would like to get purchase it. And it's like that came out of nowhere. It really didn't. The universe is keeping score. It's giving back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. The universe is an echo chamber, right? If you scream out into the echo chamber, gimme, 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 what's that echo chamber saying back to you? Right. But if I say, how may I serve? That echo chamber is like, how may I serve? Right. So I love that you said that, because the first thing you said when I heard ABC always be closing, I was like, why don't we make it always be caring? That would be so much better. And then you said it. So I love that you brought that up, because I used to think I serve all these people. I was in 12-step recovery for a while, and I was very selfish. I was always focused on me and what my problem is. And then a lot of people, like predecessors, would be like, who have you served today? Who have you helped today? And I'm like, how's that gonna help me? Right? It's counterintuitive. I think that's the thing, right? Everything that's intuitive, or everything that we know, we've been taught by a system that's programming us to be employees and slaves. But if you think outside of the box with like the principles that make this world go round, there's laws and principles and I want to say God's automation, or the universe's automation, right? The things that if I drop this towel, it'll always fall down. There's nowhere in the earth where this towel is going to fall up. That's because of the law of gravity, right? So all that being said, if I'm focused on helping other people, even if I don't get a monetary gain, like you said, the universe is keeping track. Everything I have now is a result of people I've served in the past, whether it came directly from them or it came from out of nowhere, right? I noticed this parallel when I was waiting tables too. I used to get mad when one table wouldn't tip me, and then that would affect my mood for so long until that last table, if I stayed around that long to see that last table make up for that tip. And then I started seeing it big picture, right? Okay, this person left me 10%, this person left me 30%, this person left me 20%, but at the end of the day, the average was always like 25% overall. And then there were some people that left me none, but there were some people that left me so much they made up for most of them. And when you look at it from that, it's like, okay, let me just take every table I possibly can, stay as late as I possibly can. And before you know it, it's a numbers game, right? The more people I take care of, the more money I make, the more opportunities come my way, the better things get. So I love that you mentioned that is keeping track.
Indeed. I think that the table analogy for when you're working for tips is actually just a great analogy to summarize everything we just talked about.
Yeah.
But speaking of that, I suppose we could go ahead and go into, because even though we've read your bio, some people may want to hear from you. What do you officially do professionally? And I know you're working on a few things on the side. You have a few side hustles going. Given that we're the Side Hustler Society, feel free to kind of share what you do professionally and also like what you're building on the side.
Well, thank you for that opportunity. So professionally, I'm a UX designer that's kind of transitioning into a role as a model-based systems engineer. What I want to do is bridge the gap between engineering and development, engineering and design. So there's always it's a historical duality everywhere you go, right? Like if you're working as a server, there's day shift, night shift, front of house, back of house. There's always that tension between people. And in the tech world, it's the same. It's developers versus designers, or creatives versus more logical brain people. And
or sales people versus administrative people.
That part, right? Or marketing versus sales. Or there's call center versus warehouse, right? Like there's always, warehouse people versus corporate, right? Like they're always looking down or up at each other. And it's like, why have this either or duality mentality when you can have a yes and? I think the winners, the wealthy people, think yes and, right? It doesn't have to be either or, it can be both. And so Where was I going with that? What was the question?
The question was, what do you do professionally?
So
And feel free to drop the side hustles too.
I'm bridging the gap professionally, trying to create a director level role for myself so that I can transition that out into what I do as a consultant, which is bridge gaps, connect dots, break silos. I help people to get in alignment, get some clarity around what it is that they're trying to do, and then give them an actionable plan. Because a lot of people have ideas, but they don't know how to bring it from up here in the ethereal world down to something that they can actually do. Now, don't ask me to do the same thing for myself, right? I need someone else to help me on that journey too. I can do it for myself if I sit and focus, but it's so much more it's so much more fun, and it's always feels better when you can do it with a group of people. But I love, like, as people talk, the natural thing for me is to get a vision. The vision just kind of becomes clear. And then I ask so many questions until the only thing that remains is the solution. Like, you ask enough questions and there's no more confusion as to what needs to be done. It's just like it just appears. And not many people care enough to ask that many questions. They either think they're bothering them, or, the stupid questions. I shouldn't ask this. It's a given, right? Of course we're talking
about the fear of ridicule.
Yes, that part. So couple side things I'm doing. I'm writing a book called From Waiter to Greater, how anyone can level up from right where they are. And it's got a 7-step framework in it. The Greater is for a 7-step framework. That is available for pre-order. It should be ready by March 21st. Maybe ready early, but if they pre-order now, they get the workbook and a bonus chapter about overcoming imposter syndrome. And then I have a group coaching that I built in a Facebook group right now. It's been going really well. We're on tomorrow will be week 9, and we've just been, kind of uprooting these limiting beliefs and teaching people how they can level up and use this framework in all areas of their lives. So, a little bit of what I'm doing. There's more on the drawing board, but these are the things that are actually conceptual, or they've gone from concept to reality. They're happening.
Yeah, it's kind of the curse of being a creative entrepreneur, right? Like, you get so many ideas on how to do so many things, and it can be kind of hard to pull that out of yourself and at least get it to the concept stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll be sure to leave a link to sign up for his book in the description, and we're going to circle back to it later in the podcast. And will your book be coming out on Amazon when it's out or not?
So I was going to do a book funnel and not do it on Amazon so I could get 100% of my, profits. And part of me says, just for the first time, go ahead and go with Amazon. I do. Oh, that reminds me. I did a daily meditations book. It's a year worth of meditations of things to help you focus on for life and business. My wife and I gave her the idea. I gave her the vision, and she actually went and implemented it and wrote the whole book. So it took about 3-4 months, but she got it done. It's ready. So I haven't built a page for that, but I think that's the one I'll put on Amazon, and then the other one I'll just do a book funnel for it.
Got you. Okay. Well, regardless if it's on Amazon or not, if you're listening to this and it's after the book is out, we'll be sure to have a link in the description where you can grab it. But yeah, no problem. But I think that's a good segue into, and this is kind of, I like to call this the spicy part, because we live in a group, well, not a group, we live in a time where, this is everything, technology, phones, all that stuff. And that's cool. It has its pros, but I think a big con that comes along with it is a lot of people don't have enough interactions with just people in general. That they're starting to not know how to talk to people. And if you're going to be freelancing, and specifically we're going to talk about lead generation, if you don't know how to engage with people, how to talk to people, you're going to have a very short lifespan as a freelancer, and you're going to be back on the 9-to-5 pretty fast. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. I can't stress enough how vital, how imperative, how foundational communication is, and how much the pandemic just turned extroverts into introverts and introverts into, like, even introverts were getting over it. Like, I'm over this being disconnected. It was great like the first 3 months, and then it's like, crap, I'm home all the time. There's no balance, right? There's nothing to recharge from. But yeah, man, if you can't talk like that's one of the first things we learn how to do is communicate with sound. And you see how bad it is, like with these coming generations, like the abbreviations in the text. We went to Snapchat where like your messages disappear, so they don't even remember what they're talking about half the time. I try to get on Snapchat, talk to my older friends, and they're like reacting to something. 3 days later, I see it. The message has disappeared. I don't even know what we're talking about. They don't remember what they sent. Could you imagine freelancing like that? Yeah, I gave you a quote. Yeah, it disappeared. Oh, well. What is that?
Yeah, Snapchat example. I just never put two and two together, but that's so true. But it's kind of crazy. Like the whole concept of, like, where did that come from? Like the creators of Snapchat and the audience response to this. So you can't blame the developers for trying something, and then y'all seem to like it, and it keeps going.
Right.
But like, is it, oh, I may have said something janky or stupid or whatever. Oh, we'll disappear in like a day, so it's not such a bad thing. Instead of like normally, okay, well, let me learn from that experience and maybe rephrase it differently last time. And then that's the skills that I've developed moving forward, even if it's just a little piece, a little bit a day, and it goes towards refining your communication skills.
Right.
The average person is robbed from that opportunity because there's no, it'll disappear in a day. And then they get to talking to someone in person. It's like, well, I don't have that safety cushion of being able to have like what's that Dragon Ball Super anime where one of the dudes has like the power to rewind time. Like that's not how real life works.
No. And like when you're interacting through your phone all the time, you have time to like formulate your message, and nowadays you can use AI to respond or come up with an answer for you. And you talk about being robbed of opportunities. I'm glad you brought that up, because in this PC culture, we're robbed of the muscle to hustle, and we're robbed of that opportunity to grow from adversity, because we're just removing all the adversity. Oh, that hurts you? You're offended? Let's just remove that thing.
Right.
Okay, so now instead of sanding the people down, we got this nice smooth terry cloth, and we're just wiping the ridges, and so the terry cloth gets ripped instead of you get formed, right? And so you're rough around the edges, and you can't fit into the way that the world works. The world has to fit around you. And then when life happens inevitably, because that's what happens, is life happens as it's always happened, you aren't prepared for that because you've been shielded in this bubble where life exists with no trouble. And so we rob you of the muscle to hustle. I didn't mean for it to be so poetic, but it's coming out.
It came out that way.
It just came out that way. Yeah, man. There's no, I experienced this myself. Using AI as an assistant turned into being addicted to asking AI questions, and then saving a bunch of Google Docs, right? Saving all my chats in Google Docs, and I'll get to that later. Oh, that's a great idea. I can create that later. And then at some point I realized that I can't think anymore. I need ChatGPT to help me think of ideas, because I feel like I can't do it by myself. And that's me at 41, growing up in the era before the internet, before AI. All of a sudden, I couldn't think for myself, and I was like, this is not okay. So I started literally getting out pads and writing stuff down again to like retrain that muscle. We have to embrace the struggles, the challenges, everything that comes for us, comes to us, comes against us, and learn how to reframe those and turn those into opportunities. Because every moment we remove struggle, we remain weak.
Yeah. And in that terminology, a lot of people are socially weak nowadays. I'll say this, then we'll kind of move on. But the AI and overusing it, I remember reading some reports. It was back when ChatGPT first came out. And
Yeah.
no, it wasn't reading. I heard it in a video. It's a guy named Cold Fusion, a guy from Australia. He makes amazing content. He was covering ChatGPT and AI and the consequences that could come about if this is abused. And he actually shared a study where dudes were using ChatGPT to get dates on Bumble. Then they would show up on the date and not have the mouthpiece to go anywhere. So it's like she was seeing a totally different person. Like I'm pretty sure that didn't end up working out. I just found that hilarious.
That is funny. I never even thought of that use case, but wow. And these are why rules exist, right? You read those, rules on the window where it's like no shoes, no shirt, no service. Well, somebody must have done that for them to have put that there.
Right. But yeah, I suppose some people may be saying, the convo is a little too philosophical. Let's put some concrete examples in there. And that's actually fair. So I think a good place to start would be the scenario where we met at, which was a Bit Summit. That's at an event that a lot of times events are great networking opportunities because they're a conduit to bring people together that usually have a similar outcome that they want to achieve. And to be honest, some of these seminars and some summits are expensive. So if you're there, you have money, clearly, or you have ambition if you scraped up the money to get there in the first place.
Right.
So I would ask you, like, when you see someone like you would like to talk to, like at some event like this, or just any event in general, how do you go about initiating a conversation with them when you're at this event?
So I'm glad you asked that because I feel like from the outside looking in, it looks like it's just so easy for me to just walk up to people and create a group of people that, are connected. But I too, still to this day, suffer with that kind of, there's an imposter that says, I don't belong in this crowd. I'm at Vid Summit for the first time. I don't know anyone here. These people have millions of followers. These people are doing this. These people are showing up on YouTube. So if I come and talk to them, what's the chance they're going to even talk back to me, right? They're too busy. They're too famous. They're too important for me. So when I came to Vid Summit, the first person I ran into was a friend of mine named Deluxe. Well, he goes, I think his name is DJ, but where I met him, he went by Deluxe because he was in a rap school. So that was like the icebreaker. And then he started introducing me to people and I was like, oh, okay. So it's just like any other event. I just find out something I want to know about this person, which is usually their name, because we have all this noise around us that our brain blocks out. But to get through to someone's attention, their name is the most important thing. Like if I would have said, hey, you in the vest, would you have heard that, right? Amongst everything else, like it's tuning that out. But I say, hey, Elijah, who knows my name, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing I ask is the name. Then I ask them a little bit about what they do. I either compliment like a shirt, shoes, something they're wearing, something I overheard in the conversation before I ever stepped over to them, because I just can't help but hear everything around me, ADHD. And then as I'm learning about them and they start learning about me and I see someone that looks like they want to get in the conversation, but they're not quite sure, I understand that feeling. And so I'm like, hey, you come here, meet this person. And then I repeat that person's name, tell them a little bit about them, and then ask them that. And once them two have introduced and I've got those names in, and I just keep repeating that until I've got like 3, 4, 5, 6 people around me. And now I know a bunch of people. They know each other. They most likely were probably afraid to talk to each other or anyone else, or feeling that same feeling I was feeling. And I created a little community around me of people that know each other. Now they can travel throughout that thing with a familiar group of people. And then once I see that they have made they've established their thing, I've never been the type to be in groups and stay there. So then I'm like, okay, these people are cool now. Let me go try that again. And I just build little pods. And it's so much fun to do because it's like, you sit back after a while, after you built like 5 or 6 pods and people were really like hitting it off, and you just kind of watch like, dang, I did that.
I really wish I had this clip. If I had a crystal ball and I could see you were going to bring that up, there's the clip of Thanos at Endgame. Which says, he's been asked like, "What do you do once you completed this?" Well, I sit down and rest on knowing that I created a grateful universe or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember it exactly.
And then what?
I finally rest and watch the sunrise on a grateful universe.
Yeah.
But that clip is so abused in like various YouTube videos to illustrate a point, and it would have fit perfectly here. But that's how you're feeling once you create these pods or crews of people, right?
Yeah. And the bonus, here's the bonus. You go to an event you've never been to before, and you start doing you start with the people that are hosting the event, and then you move to build another pod. And one time when I met my friend Misty, I'm sitting at a table. I got two people here, and then everyone that I saw came in for the first time to this space. I was like, "Hey, you come here." And so it ended up being like 15, 20 people. And I was going around in circles, reciting all the names, introducing to the new person. And everyone was just like, wow. And so when we go into the room for the meetup to start and I sit down with them, they're like, "I thought you were the host. I thought this was your meetup." And I'm like, "Oh, no, I don't even know what we're doing here. I'm about to learn with y'all." And it was just so funny because once you do that, people just see you in all these pods and you're the one creating them. And so you become an interesting person. And I don't even do it for that. That's just a bonus. So if you could take anything from that, the TLDR, create connections, genuine connections, be genuinely curious and empathetic about the people you meet, and you may find a lot more in common than you thought you had, whether it's the fears of getting to know people, something you do, a hobby you have, some other people you might go to add each other on LinkedIn or Facebook and see, oh, we got 35 mutual friends. How are we not friends, right?
Right. This is actually kind of giving me flashbacks of how the Veggie Outers got started, to be honest. Most of my audience already knows what the Veggie Outers is, so I'm not going to re-explain what it is. But a lot of meetup groups nowadays, they're spoiled with, Meetup and Facebook, which Facebook reworked their algorithm to accommodate Facebook groups and events.
Yeah.
But back when the Veggie Outers got started, none of that stuff existed. So it got started by literally me going to events and basically being, well, I'm not going to say business Cupid because that's something different. But I guess I'll just say social Cupid by basically talking to people, kind of selling them on the idea of the plant-based lifestyle. Have they tried vegan food? And I would get these, it would start with like me and another person. And before you know it, I would invite other people to join the conversation. Because when you're the one that's energetic and giving information, there's a certain allure that people can feel that they start hovering around. Like, you ain't got to hover around, just join the conversation.
Yeah.
And before you know it, that's how the group originally got started. And it is a skill, but it's a skill that you can develop. I think too many people, they're associated with just a personality trait, like either you have it or you don't.
Right.
Some people do have it naturally, but you can develop it.
Sorry, I'm trying to get this air on me. It's a little toasty in here. Yeah, I'm really glad you said that because I think we just associate, like I'm an introvert, you're an extrovert. I can't do what you do, you can't do what I do. Or I'm drained by people, you're energized by people, right? Or the other way around. I think everything we do is a habit. Like if you do it enough times, no matter what it is, good or bad, you're going to form a habit from it. And so growing up in my family, I was already extroverted by nature. Like I just love to be loud and get attention, all that stuff. But I was beat and reprimanded because, children are to be seen and not heard, only to speak when spoken to, go sit down somewhere with all that noise. So it just kind of makes you go inside and you feel like I felt like I was conditioned to be quiet and be in the corner and not people. And so I always felt guilty peopling or being the center of attention. And so it started coming out as like me acting out. But when you get to be an adult, you have to go out there and be in the world. You learn about sales jobs because, you're trying to get your way make your way in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And you find out what really works for you. But the beautiful part for me, I've become an ambivert. I can be recharged sitting in this room alone with no music, no screens on, and just be okay with myself. But you put me in a crowd of people, I could be energized by that too. So I can recharge either way, but it took some action. Like it took getting out of my comfort zone, which my comfort zone had been introversion because that's what I was used to. It wasn't what I was energized by, but it was just what I was used to. But I was always angry because I was drained, because I was alone, because I'm naturally charged up by people. But at the same time, if I'm charged too much by people, that actually ends up draining me because I don't have time to process all that's happened with these people. So I think that if you force yourself to do hard things, if you make yourself do what you're uncomfortable with doing, you get new layers to yourself, right? Like there's just something about being able to do what's uncomfortable long enough for a new habit or a new skill to be learned or acquired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could definitely see that. In fact, in financial anatomy lingo, and we did a podcast on this, so it'll be coming out. It's it's actually already out. But I put that in the category of boldness. And some people are more bold than others. But it's kind of the foundation of developing any skill set and developing new habits. Because if something is intimidating to you, I'm not going to reiterate the whole show, but I tell everyone they need to make a phobia list, and you need to make 4 categories. And those categories are, first you decide what your undertaking is. And then the phobia list, the categories are somewhat uncomfortable, very uncomfortable, extremely uncomfortable, and phobic. And every time you encounter something that you're hesitant to do that's in the way of your undertaking, categorize it in one of those 4 categories. Before you know it, you're going to have a list and gradually start working your way up the list. You don't have to start with the most phobic thing, but start with something that just makes you just a little uncomfortable and just start working your way up. You build your confidence level up. But there is a hack. That dangerous stuff that you see people doing in the movies, or like the things that you're scared of, like zip lining or snow skiing or stuff like that. This is something you can do to have fun. But if you do stuff like that on a regular basis, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, when you come back to reality per se, or the real life, you look at that phobia list, like, you know what, this stuff that I'm phobic about, it moved down 2 tiers. This ain't it.
Yeah, you're building that muscle. And just, I remember a quote back in, I won't go through all the details. Let's just say the quote said, do one thing every day that scares you, Eleanor Roosevelt. And I thought, I'm like 20-something-year-old me. I ain't scared of nothing. I'm a man. I can hold my boy. Let me tell you, Elijah, I was afraid to eat in front of people, chew in front of people, walk in front of people, run in front of people, like anything that involved people. I was scared, deathly afraid of. But I didn't until I had the awareness, right, that someone was challenging me through a bumper sticker quote, literally, to do one thing every day that scared me. That I realized I was scared of everything. And so I tried it, right? Let me just go to a restaurant, get a table for one, sit there amongst people, and then eat and not worry about who's watching me. And it was so uncomfortable the first time. I was like, oh my God, everyone's watching me. Like I had my menu up and I'm just sitting there eating, like hoping no one looks at me. And it only made people look at me more. So the next time I went to a new restaurant, right? Because now that one's burned. I can never go back there ever again, right? I go to the next one. I try it without the menu. And then I start to look around and I'm like, you know what? They're probably more afraid of me than I am of them. And so I try to lock in eye contact and just look at people. And as soon as we would lock eyes, they'd look away.
Look down or look away.
Oh, this is cool. Okay, so if I just act like I'm confident, then I just like win by default. And so it started becoming intoxicating, and it went from just do one thing every day that scares you, to if anything scares you, face it head on so that nothing can hold you back. Because when you have nothing to fear, right? Like when there's nothing that scares you, you are literally limitless. Like there's no obstacles.
Right. Or the only obstacle that's in your way is if you don't know something. And you can always learn something. But if you master the art of boldness, then that's the only thing that's holding you back. And we're always, life is a process. Life is nothing but learning. So you're doing that by default anyway. So it really just opens up all these possibilities and opportunities.
Yeah. I like how you said the only obstacle is not knowing something. But if you practice boldness, you could be bold enough to say, you know what, that's a good question. Or, you know what, I don't know that. I would love to learn. Right. And now, not only have you been humble enough to let someone know that you don't know, right, which is taboo, right? When you're trying to act like you're confident, you don't want anyone to know you don't know. But I think that's the start of accumulating knowledge, to understand and assimilate the knowledge, to turn it into wisdom, is just admitting you don't know.
Oh yeah, it's the first step. It's the first step.
Yeah, first step is just admitting I don't know. And second step is realizing that there's someone else that knows besides you. And third step is surrendering to the fact that I'm probably just going to have to suck it up and learn from them, read about it, watch a video about it, ask a question, ask the stupid question, right? Because there's no stupid questions really. Unless you ask the same one twice in a row, and then like, yeah, get out this room, dude.
Well, I'll say this, and then we'll move on to the next question. Everything you mentioned is a learned behavior when we're adulterated or we become adults. But everything you mentioned, children don't really have it. They're just naturally inquisitive, natural, ask questions just because they're genuinely curious, and they don't have any ego because they haven't been here long enough to develop one. It's kind of interesting how, in order to succeed as adults, we kind of got to go back to our childhood habits, if we're going to be honest.
It is very interesting. And oh, I love that you brought that up. There's an African proverb. I can't find it. I just know my mentor told me about it. But the proverb says, everyone's been a child, but no one's ever been an adult. And what I got from that, what I heard when I heard that was, nobody knows what they're doing, right? Everyone is a kid playing adult. You remember when we were kids, we'd be like, let's play Office. And then we'd have some paper, we'd have pens, and like, I'm doing reports. And you'd put and then like, let's play cashier. We got the little Fisher Price cashier set with the little funny money. And like, that's what we're doing when we really get into a job, is like, let's play server. Okay, what do we do? Well, people are here to eat, so I guess we got to ask them what they want to eat and drink, and then we got to go do that, right? And then you just learn. But most times we learn by watching other people, right? Or mimicking. And this is where like culture has grown. We just kind of get into a place and we want to come in there and do what's right or what the handbook says. But then you just kind of look around and see what other people are doing. And you're like, oh, we can do that. Oh, we shouldn't do that. And then you just kind of fit in. But it's really interesting that we think there's like this degree, this level, this place we have to get to as adults, right? So that we can, like, we think we have to have something in order to do something so we can be something. And really, we just have to be. We have to be the person that we are, that only we can be. You got to do the things that, we've learned to do or that we know are best to do in the situation we're in. And then you can have whatever you want to have. But it all comes from that being. And like, we're all children. But like, no matter how old we get, how old we look, how old do you feel? Do you feel your age, or do you feel like you're still 14, 15, 16, 18, right? Like, right. I still feel like I'm my kids' age and they're in their 20s now. There's 5 kids in their 20s. And I'm like, when I go out, people are like, oh, is this your brother and sister? I'm like, I wish. Then I could just send them home to mom.
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm playing. I love my kids.
That's funny.
Yeah, man. It's wild how simple life is and how complicated we've made it.
Right. In fact, that kind of is a good tie into this next question. I think people overcomplicate this by having an unnecessary mental conversation. But the question I asked, let's take that same question and apply it to a different scenario. So instead of you like meeting someone at a networking event, like when you see someone you like to talk to just out and about, let's say at the grocery store, for instance, how would you go about initiating a conversation with them? I mean, do you have a different process or is it something similar? Because obviously that scenario is different from like something like a bid summit or a conference. I would categorize that as a warm market. So you can literally, and I've done this several times. Like, there's a group of people talking. Well, I can walk in the middle of the group and say, "Hey, y'all mind if I join in on the conversation?" Oh yeah. Then I just listen to what they're saying, and I just give my commentary on the conversation. And chances are the conversation is somewhat related to what we're all there for.
Mm.
So it's easy to just penetrate that conversation, join in. But what do you do when you meet someone one on one out and about, let's say at a grocery store, and you would like to potentially forge that relationship?
So it's an interesting process, and when you say it, I started to see kind of like, you know, some different scenarios where I've met people that are still my friend today, or still in my group of people, right? My sphere. It's all contextual. Like, let's say you're standing in the line, and they're there. You can tell they're kind of uncomfortable waiting, but they're holding a magazine, and you just read what it says on the magazine and be like, you know, are you interested in this thing? Or what story drew you to that magazine? Or I love your shoes. I love your hair. Like, just complimenting something, usually starting with a compliment or like interjecting into a conversation. Let's say it's like a mom, husband, or husband, wife, and kid. And like the kid says something funny and you just kind of play on those words and get in the conversation, or you just have the conversation with the kid. It's really all about the environment where you're at. Like, kind of, I always try to go PG, right? Like PG or self-defamation, or not self-defamation.
What it literally stands for, PG, parental guidance.
Keep it G rated. Yeah, that's what I meant. Keep it G. Keep it G. Just general audiences. So high level dad joke, something funny, something corny. Like, I embrace my dorkiness, right? So it really just depends on where I'm at, but I try to keep it as genuine as possible, right? Like, I'm not trying to hit on women.
The G also stands for genuine. Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Genuine, general, grateful, right? Just reciting what you're grateful for to the next person. Something about gratitude, no matter what circle I'm in, whether it's recovery, you know, like some kind of networking event. If you're on a Zoom and it's like, what's one thing you're grateful for? I'm gonna pass the mic around to everyone. By the third or fourth person, everyone's crying and everyone is just so happy. And I'm like, I don't know how that works, but I love it every time. Like, it's never fails. So it depends. Like, give me a couple situations. Like, and I, well, actually, I'll do this. So there was Comic-Con, or like anime convention, that was happening today in Fort Worth.
Really?
Yeah, we were eating at Wabi House, and we saw a bunch of people dressed up as soon as we got up the stairs to go to Wabi House. And I was like, looking at my kids, I'm like, we should go talk to them. And they're just like, no, like, they're just clammed up, right? And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go ask. So it's like, hey, I'm so curious. Who are you? And so this person here is like, Tails, I'm Sonic, I'm Shadow, I'm just Goth Girl, and this is Amy. Like, okay, cool. This is really cool. So what are y'all dressing up for? Like, is this just for fun? Do y'all do this? Like, is this how you go out to eat? Because that's cool. I'd be part of it. Like,
That's pretty eccentric.
So many questions, right? And so it's just like, at some point, I can see that they were a tight-knit group, and I was the weirdo. And so I just thanked them at that point and walked away. That's obviously, like, if I had something to sell, that's not my target audience at that moment. Or we're just not meant to mesh. But I did learn something. I learned that there's an anime convention going on. I learned that they're all a friend group that loves to do that thing, and they have no shame in it. and I learned that we have something in common. We both like Sonic, right? It doesn't always have to result in a sale or, you know, a permanent connection, but that interaction, they could take it back to their life. And it's like, there's this really weird guy with dreads and like look like a grandpa. He just asked us about us, but like nobody does that. Why would he ask us about us? Like every interaction we make, we don't know how what we do or what we say is going to affect people. So imagine this on the flip side, right? You're in line, you're having a bad day, someone's behind you and they just happen to lock eyes with you and you say, what the F are you looking at, right? Because you're having a bad day. I haven't had this happen to me since I was in like my early teens where I was just an angry person. But just imagine that person that's just hot-headed. Everywhere they go, they're taking it out on other people. And then the cashier, you're so slow, you're an idiot. Do you know how to do your job? And you're just like berating them. And that person could have been thinking, man, I really hate life. I just want it all to end and I'll probably do it after work. And now instead of it being that first scenario where, you know, you could uplift and motivate and make someone feel better, now you've taken that same energy and you've turned it negative and you could potentially risk someone not being here anymore. Like it's so powerful what we do or what we say when we're dealing with other people. And like the best thing we can do is be kind, right? Because we never know what anyone's going through. So I just love to have fun. And that's what I do is I go out and I have fun with people.
Okay. One thing I do often, and I can tell based on what you said that you do this too. If there's someone I want to talk to, I do what I call reacting out loud. So I find something that's next to us, or like you gave the magazine example. That's actually a great example. But let's say if there's someone and they're in the vegan food section. So clearly I know we probably have veganism in common, or they have an interest in veganism. And I'm right next to them. I might react out loud as I'm looking at this like veggie meat, like, well, you know, I wonder if this tastes good. It looks like it tastes good, but it doesn't. And then they look at me like, were you wondering the same thing, sir? Well, you know what? I was actually kind of curious about eating vegan food, so I found myself here, but I've never actually tried any of this stuff. Well, I can't vouch for this, but I have tried just this. Before you know it, I'm in a conversation.
Yeah.
It's because I reacted out loud.
Yeah, as soon as you said reacted out loud, you know, my brain takes it to the extreme. And I'm just picturing you there, someone else is there, and you're like, wow, that's a low price.
That could work too. I mean, whatever. There's several ways that could be mixed. But I will say it's important to, you know, look at a person's body language, look at what they're saying back. And if you're getting like short answers like yes and no, that means that they're not interested in engaging further. Like, oh, it's nice talking to you, and you have a nice day.
Yeah.
And if they're very chatty and asking you questions back, that's someone that's open to engaging further. So you know where to go from there.
Yeah.
But this is how you meet people.
And I mean, I can't tell you how many opportunities have come just from meeting people. Like when they say your network is your net worth, I'm living proof of that. You can literally get rich by changing the people you hang around. Now, I'll also say this. If you're planning to get rich by changing the people you hang around, make sure that you're reading financial books like The Anatomy of Finances or Financial Anatomy book that Elijah wrote. Reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, reading, Money Master of the Game, Tony Robbins, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, Think and Grow Rich. Like read something that's going to tell you. Trash Man to the Cash Man by Myron Golden, right? Like read something that's going to tell you the real purpose of money and how you can nurture and grow your money, because the purpose of money is not to buy things or pay bills. It is to make more money, right? You got to be buying income producing assets. I went from $213 an hour to making $250,000 a year, and I still live check to check because I did it all wrong. And if I could do it all over again, I would apply the things that I've learned since And so now my dilemma is trying to create more income so that I can manage better, because more is going out than is coming in. So I had to just put that in there just for anyone that like wants to change their net worth so that they change their net worth, but still don't know how to manage the worth they have now. Look, if you don't know how to manage a little bit of money and you get a lot, you're just going to be worse with a lot more money. But I said all that to say, like this conversation, this podcast right here wouldn't have happened if I didn't have the conversation with you. If I didn't pull you into, I don't even remember how we, whether
you were talking to David, and me and David had the astrology, and me and David had met the day before. So I walked up to David and said, "What's up?" And it was you, Dijon, David.
Yes.
And I had met Dijon and David before, so I walked up like, "Yo, what's up?" And since you were there, I don't remember which one of us spoke to each other first, but we both knew, like, look, it's rude to talk, either enter a group of people and not talk to everyone, or if someone joins the conversation, not talk to them. So one of us ended up talking to the other, and then you mentioned like Myron Golden's group, and boom.
Okay. I knew it was right around that time on day 2.
When it comes to people, I don't forget anything. I'm one of those people. I don't know why I've always been that way. I guess I have a good social memory.
As you're describing it, I'm seeing it, but I end up in so many networking events and so many groups of people, and I don't know, man, like my text thread is ridiculous. Like I can just like this for hours and it's just still conversations. And some days I just don't respond to anyone.
And that's part of the reason I'm not really a texter, to be honest. I'm a talker. I actually put something out on Facebook, basically because I was getting too many messages. There's people I will text, but the thing is, these people, they're like me. They'll text if the total amount of texts for that day is going to be like 5 texts together, not like 5 texts each. Like the total conversation is 5 texts. It's more them like just updating me on something. If they want to talk, they're going to call me or I'm going to call them.
Right. It's so much easier.
Yeah. And I just kind of put a message out there on Facebook, my Facebook story saying like, look, I am a talker, y'all. I'm not a texter. It doesn't mean I don't want to talk. But here, I actually put my number out there. I have 2 numbers. I have a Google Voice number and a personal number. I put a Google Voice number out there like, look, if you want to call, let's chop it up. But texting actually drains me for whatever reason. I can't really say why. Well, I think it's because people excite me. And if I'm not going to be talking to the person, hearing their tone, hearing what they're feeling, etc., then it's already kind of energy draining. And then you got to think of, well, the texting. I know people are thinking this isn't an anti-texting bash podcast. I'm going to get back on point to say. But you have to think about how are they going to take it, because the tone can be misinterpreted. You got to master the art of using these emojis to convey the right tone. And then like some of these people, they'll spend like it's like a mini book, like boom, paragraph. I'm like, whoa. Do you have time to talk?
Right. I'm not reading that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I don't even know how you managed to type all that. It would have been easier just to call me and say it.
Yeah. They're either using voice to text or, they do just prefer to do that, because then like, you could still be watching your movie and scrolling Facebook on your iPad and on your phone, right? That's where we're at today. People have to be stimulated by multiple things. I think it's funny you mentioned that. I used to be one of those people that, and this is still on topic because we're still talking about networking and communication and people. You brought up the part about tone, right? I don't know about you or the listeners, but when I read someone's text message, especially from like a boss or a superior, I'm reading it in the worst tone I've ever heard them say something in. That's just where my brain goes. It's like, did you do the thing? And they could be like, did you do the thing? And it's like, because of how I feel about it or my view of how that person talks, right? So I don't like texting either. I do it, but I use voice to text or like just something real quick. or copy and paste, right? Because like a lot of people ask the same question. So I'm just like, I got something for that right here.
No, I think we just had a breakthrough. I
Hmm.
think it could be summarized like this: the texting thing, the interpretation is dependent on the projection of the relationship you have with a person. And it's whatever the strongest emotion is. So you said what you said about like your boss.
Yeah.
But to some degree, you might be scared of your boss because they have the potential to fire you. So that's projecting you, even though that might not be the case.
Right.
And it's interesting because, like, I guess now that I'm thinking back, there's been scenarios where, like, I've had text exchanges with women, and I know they like me, and they may take something that I said and as validation, like, oh, he does like me. Like, she heard me say it. She could tell me that's not necessarily the case, but the tone isn't in there, so she's projecting how she feels onto the text that I said when that's not necessarily the case. This is why texting is inferior to just talking to someone. And talking to someone is inferior to being in someone's face. But that's a compromise that we have to make because the society we live in, we're all busy.
Yeah.
But we can do something about the texting compromise. Let's give them a call.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. You know, it's funny. It's not just in texting that we project, right? Like, how I experience the world is completely up to what my paradigm and my mindset is. Like, what were my experiences? What's my background? What are my beliefs? Beliefs are the most important thing. We will never behave inconsistently with something we believe. If I believe money is the root of all evil and money is only for if I believe that money is evil and that only like morally corrupt or evil people have money, right? Like, think about this. You're trying to get into a relationship with a woman, but you think she's evil. Do you think that like either one of you are going to want to either start the relationship or continue it? Right. And so we wonder why we're broke. And it's like, I hate money. Money's not everything to me. Okay. If you'll lie about that, you'll lie about anything. If money wasn't so important to you, you'd be on the streets, homeless, or living somewhere in the mountains off the grid. But the reality is we spend a third of our lives working for that very thing. Right. So like, how could money not be everything if it's like the main, like, if you don't have enough, what do you got to do? You got to get another job. You got to get a side hustle. You got to Uber. You got to Lyft. Like, you got to do something to make it happen because it makes the world go round. Right.
Right.
So just, yeah.
Just an observation.
Just an observation.
Okay.
I don't remember what brought me there.
But well, it gradually moved that direction, but I suppose we'll steer back on course. So, like, since we were talking about communication, if when you're talking to someone, and different people have different tactics for this, but let's assume that you are in sales and you do have a product that you want to offer. When you're talking to someone and the conversation is going good, you build rapport. Do you ever steer the conversation in the direction to get a potential sale or like a call to action you want them to do, whether it be joining a Facebook group or whatever? Or do you just save that for a later time in your relationship with them in the future?
I don't know if I should give away my secret, but my kids have picked up on this over the years. So I'll tell you a story about when we went to Victoria's Secret. So my daughter we went to the outlet mall. She needed some bras from Victoria's Secret.
Okay.
And we go in and I find the manager and I start talking to her and I start complimenting her and I start asking her questions. What's the favorite part of your job? Love your nails. I love your hair. Love your vibe. Love the decorations in the store. And I just kept pouring the compliments and asking the questions. And before long, she's like, man, y'all are so nice. Y'all are so pleasant, because most customers are not. Yeah. And so she's like, anything y'all need, like really, seriously, guys, anything at all, just let me know. And we're like, we're actually looking for some bras and potentially some panties too, but I don't know. It's up to her. I'm just dad, right? And so she's like, oh, sure. Come here, honey. And she takes her with her and she shows her. And she was like, I was looking for this. But she's like, oh, yeah, when you don't see it, go under here. And here's some new ones. And she starts bringing ones out that weren't on display. And then we get to the register after this whole personal shopping experience, I didn't know actually that she was a manager. I just looked for the person that I can compliment the most, or that looked like the most interesting person in there. And come to find out, she was a manager. She gave us a manager discount. And we ended up getting like everything for under $50. She got like a whole new undergarment wardrobe, and like I asked her if she could try it on before she left, and she's like, "Oh, trust me, you don't need to." And she taught her the sizing system. But all of that to say, become obsessed with the other person, asking questions, being genuinely concerned about them, and asking enough questions to find out if anything you even have to offer is a fit for who they are. You qualify them with those questions and those compliments. And at some point in the conversation, they're going to get so uncomfortable with being poured into, cared for, listened to. They're going to ask, "Oh, you're so amazing. What can I do for you?" "Oh, well, I wasn't really expecting anything, but now that you ask, I do have a book, an upcoming book, or I do sell, these products, and I think it'd be great for that thing you mentioned earlier. But it's there if you want it. That's not what I'm here for. I just was genuinely curious about you." And it just evolves. So it just really, like you said, you get to kind of read the body language, read the person, but is it the appropriate time? Should you connect and go deeper later? What is the purpose? Not that everything has to have like an end goal, right? But is there synchrony? Is there chemistry here? Right? So you just kind of read it, but it's something that comes with experience, right? Like you're not just going to go out there and try this one time and master it. Probably going to fumble, probably going to be awkward. It's probably not going to feel like you. So if I can tell anyone anything to help them, if they were going to apply this, it's just be you. Be you, be curious, be empathetic, and see where it leads.
Nicely put.
Thank you.
And it's one thing to hear that, but I've seen it in action. So I think it was the Mediterranean spot where you did talk to them, and by the end of the night, I remember I was doing the reviews, and you managed to give me free cauliflower because they're. I do remember that, so I've seen this happen in person.
Yeah, it was great. I remember that I think they were cleaning up and they threw away your cauliflower, and you're like, "Nah, it's okay. It's my fault. I should have been paying attention." I was like, "No, I'll go get you some more." He's like, "No, really, don't do it." I'm like, "No, watch this. This is great." So I go over there. I compliment homegirl. I tell them how much I love the restaurant and how great they are, and I love how they're taking initiative to clean up early. I said, "But there's a problem. I don't want to be that guy. Just don't fault me for being that guy." But in the process of being so amazing, y'all accidentally threw away my boy's cauliflower. So I was just wondering, you can tell me no, I'm annoying. Could you give him some? Oh yeah, no problem. We'll definitely. And I was like, that always works. It's almost like just reversing, right? Instead of coming at them in a way that's going to make their defenses come up, it's like, come at them in a way that's going to make them wonder why they haven't done something for you sooner. Right?
You know what? That's an interesting take, and I've seen it work. I've seen the other way work too. I'm not saying do this, but the offensive way, if this was a more, I guess, serious outcome, but I do remember getting the brakes worked on on my car at the time. And they told me it would be done by a certain time. And this was back when I was heavy into like the Ubering and Lyfting.
Yeah.
Because I needed content. And yeah, rush hour, like the hottest time to do it is between the hours of 3 and 7. And I purposely went there like around noon so that this would for sure be done by 4 o'clock. Yeah. Even if I missed like 1 hour, I could live with that. But it was done by like 5:45, like the sun was in the process of going down, and they had told me it would be finished by a certain time. But otherwise, I just wouldn't have. Okay, I'll just come back another day. And they failed to meet that deadline that they promised themselves. It was like an hour and a half over. And I basically explained the whole situation to the manager, like, and I broke it down step by step. Like, look, I'm an Uber driver, okay? And I told y'all this before I even pulled in, and y'all said y'all be able to get it to me at this time. It's now an hour and a half later. Now people are getting off of work at 3, and the hot time ends at 7. It's 5:30 now, so I only have 90 minutes to make just a little bit of that money. Now, my question to you is, what can we do to make this right? Well, so I can give you a 10% discount. Okay. But your method is much more universal. So use G-Wiz's method.
I mean, it depends really. Like, there's some people that won't fall for my method. Some people are just like, I'm not entertaining you, clown, right? So they need the more logistical, here's step by step, what can we do to make this right? I'd word it differently, but I'd use yours. I've used that one too. It's like, listen, I don't want to cause problems, but here's what happened. Here's how I feel about it. Here's how I used to be, but it, 9 anger management classes later, I don't flip tables anymore. So I just want to peacefully handle this. What can we do to make this right? I'm thinking 20% sounds good, but if 25 is on in your mind, then I'll take 25. They laugh, I get 15, right? Or they're like, don't worry about it. But you really, like, anything that we are telling you today is a guess for you, right? Until you test it, until you experience it, you won't know what's going to work for you. And so
You land your plane there?
Huh?
You land your plane there?
Yeah. My challenge is just, go out there and try. Go out there and have fun trying something you've never done before. Get in the zone of being uncomfortable. People are uncomfortable because we're not used to them. And we see all these things on the news about how horrible people can be.
And in movies, if we're going to be honest,
right.
A lot of this stuff is indoctrination. It's so dogmatic, I'll say.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the world's not like that. At least my experience with the world is not like that.
Nice.
Go ahead.
Oh, I stand nicely put.
Thank you. Even in my worst of days, there were times back in the day where I was in places nobody should ever be, doing things that nobody should ever be doing, and I still found cool people there. Like, there's a lot of talented people that have been hurt, that have, we get the school system that judges a monkey by how it swims in the ocean and a fish by how it climbs a tree, and then you make the monkey feel like it's wrong because it doesn't know how to swim and breathe underwater, and you make the fish feel like it's dumb because it can't climb a tree and swing from the branches. Well, you got people operating in the wrong place. Like, we're not even starting the game, and you're starting the game 5 steps ahead, or the race 5 steps ahead. And so when we race, of course I'm behind, because I'm not even in the right race or in the right place. And so if you're feeling like, you're struggling with this, don't feel bad. It's not your fault. But once you're aware, right, you have the option to do something about it or continue living in that place you've been in. But just trust that being you is enough, and that even if you were to apply these methods, just put your spin on it.
Right. Earlier in the show, we actually kind of trashed technology, and what we said is still valid. Let's flip it around for a sec and talk about how it can actually obviously be used to benefit us, especially if you're going to be a freelancer in terms of lead generation or networking in general. But in what ways do you use like social media for your networking goals, whether it be Facebook or Instagram or just whatever?
I like to, so there's a variety of methods that you can use. Typically when I'm at a meetup event or some kind of in-person event, I ask people how they like to connect, because you could ask somebody for their phone number and they're never on their phone, like they're always on Facebook. Or you can ask them to connect on Facebook and they're not really on there, they're on LinkedIn. And so you just ask what way someone wants to connect, and then just reach out, ask how they're doing, maybe do a little research on their page, see what it is they do, watch some of their content if they're a content creator, see some of their posts, and then ask them about that thing. Ask them if they want to be on a podcast. If you have a podcast or a show that you host, ask if you could be on their podcast if you have something valuable to give. I like to ask a lot of questions, and just like, if you want to know something about someone, just put it out there and ask a question. Another way is like get in a group of like-minded people. So like, there's this group called Be a Guest Podcast Collaboration Community. And there are tons. I think it's like at 70.5 or 70.7 thousand people, or 70.7K people, like 70,000 people in this group that either have a podcast or want to be on a podcast. And you put a post on there and everyone's going to come pouring in with, yes, I'd love to be on your podcast. But it works the other way around. Like, hey, I want to be on a podcast. Yes, come on my podcast. And it's like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. And to meet people that way, just find a group of people that are doing the thing that you love and watch how easy things flow. Like, the beauty of social media is you can pick and choose in this echo chamber. Like, social media was designed, the algorithm was designed with our universe in mind, because it's an echo chamber. You search for something or talk about something, and what's the next thing that happens? It is on your phone. The first thing you see when you open your Instagram feed or your Facebook feed or your LinkedIn feed is the last thing you were talking about. And you're like, oh my God, it's such a coincidence. No, it's really not. But it's convenient, right? Like, if I want to, like, I'm going to mention waterbed. I'm just going to say the word waterbed a couple times and see if, like, when I get on Facebook next time, I see a waterbed, and I'll send you a screenshot when I see it. I don't even think waterbeds are a thing anymore. But
if they're not, then one will pop up on eBay.
Right. And if they are, then it's just going to open my feed to seeing waterbeds now, because, I see a lot of motivational content. I see a lot of like financial stuff. I see updates from people in my group, and when they're posting their stuff, and people from Vid Summit, but I don't really see friends from high school anymore, or I don't see, political messages. Like, it's just not what I look at. But a lot of people don't know that that's how the algorithm's designed. And so if you're wanting to use social media and technology to your benefit, you have to leverage it, not be leveraged by it. Right? Because you have to think. Facebook.
Has anyone said that before? If they haven't, you might want to trademark that and get paid. I'm just saying.
I'm not sure. Leverage.
Maybe Google it later and check it out. But go ahead and finish your thought.
No, that's really good. I like the way you think. So leveraging social media or technology instead of being leveraged by it. So you have to think, like, why is Facebook free? Why is Instagram free? Why are these things free? They're not free. You may not be paying with your money, but you're paying with the most important asset you have, your time and your attention, right?
Yeah.
And like, we talk about big data and, big pharma and big whatever, all these big companies. Big data is a big money producing machine, because data is king. Like, Facebook has more data points on us than the judicial and the justice system put together. Like, they may have our fingerprints and our records of when we got arrested, but Facebook knows when we get up, what we look at, what we like, who we talk to, everything we talk about. They can hear what's going on in our house. And think about all these augmented reality, like blended reality, where you're like, oh, you can take a picture from Amazon and see where this thing fits in your house. So now they have data points of what your house looks like from every area you've taken a picture. Like, man, craziest thing happened. I'm talking about, this is like last week. I was like, how does ChatGPT and Gemini and all these other AI models, how do they put out so much good stuff so fast? And then I go, hey Siri, open my phone. And she's like, what? I'm sorry, there's a problem. I don't understand. And I'm like, Apple, you're failing, right? And then the very next, I think it was either the next day or later that night, I see there's an update. Apple Intelligence. Siri's been updated. It now has a Chat GPT integrated, and you can take pictures of what's in your space and ask it what it is. And I'm like, is it brand new? Was it always there? Or was I the straw that broke the camel's back? Like, was I the last person that complained about it? Was it generative AI that said, oh, that's a good idea, and then it generated that and created Apple Intelligence and then just made it? Like, you'll never know. Was it a coincidence? I don't even know what is coincidence and what's not anymore, because everything is so engineered and manufactured, right?
If we go any further, we'll be stepping into Black Mirror's territory.
Yeah, let's back up.
But one thing that's pretty cool about social media, if let's say, and what I ask for when I build rapport with someone when I'm out and about, it actually depends on how deep the connection was. So if the connection was pretty deep, then I'll ask for the phone number. But let's say if I only had a chance to talk to them for like 5 minutes and it wasn't that deep, but we do see we have some things in common, yeah, I'll try and link up with them on Facebook. So I'll get their Facebook information. And, we've added each other, so they see my timeline, I see their timeline. But a lot of times people post what they like on their timeline. And so I might scroll and see like, oh, they like the post about Yu Yu Hakusho, like this anime I used to watch when I was a kid. So I might message them like, oh, I didn't know you were a fan of Yu Yu Hakusho. Like, who's your favorite character? My favorite character was Hiei. Oh, my favorite character was Kurama. Then all of a sudden, this is the conduit to build more rapport and extend that relationship further. Even though we didn't get to the we didn't build enough of a connection to exchange phone numbers yet.
Yeah.
But Facebook was a good in between to get us there potentially in the future.
Yeah. And, if they're that kind of person, there's always that person that texts one thought, one line at a time. So it's like, good morning. Hey, I got a question for you. And it's like separate text. So like, as long as you're not disturbed.
It's getting pinged 3 or 4 times instead of just one.
Yeah, like just send, at this point, just send me the paragraph. I was okay with the paragraph. But like, Facebook, social media is a good buffer just to find out if they're that kind of person. And then once they're the kind of person that you could communicate with comfortably, then okay, now we can move into the phone zone.
Yeah, it can be a filter too.
Yeah.
I'm probably the king of social filters, to be honest. Now, not just anyone gets in my network. I'm gonna be honest.
Well, I am honored to be in your network because I know I'm a little left field. We keep going so far off the track with the questions. How many questions you got left, man?
Well, we're actually getting ready to wind down, but I only have like about 3 questions left. But with that, since you brought it up, this is actually a great time to revisit your book because you want to tell the audience a little more about your book. And you mentioned when it's coming out, but what inspired you to write this book? Because a lot of people will say they want to write a book, and they may actually have the skills to do it.
Yeah.
5 years later, book's still not out.
Well, what inspired me to write this book is, we talked about your network is your net worth. You can literally get rich by changing who you hang around. I went from being a waiter to not being able to get another waiter job to taking a job as a barista inside of a tech company at a Starbucks that was run by another company inside of a company. But when I got to the building and I was like, this is so amazing, I was so curious, and my mind was saying, it was hearing my mom and my sisters and all these people that have told me how to succeed. They're like, keep your head down, work hard, and don't say anything to anyone. Bro, don't you know that backfired on me? I did the exact opposite. I popped my head up, I asked a question, and the questions never stopped. I talked to every single person, and I worked hard, but I worked hard at getting other people to work harder because I was a supervisor, right? So like teaching them to be efficient. And I ended up telling the story of how I went from waiter to barista to getting hired by the tech company to breaking into UX design, which was something I didn't even know existed, but found out that it's more along the lines of who I am naturally, like as a person. It just, everything about the field and the profession lines up with who I am naturally and how I interact with the world. And so I noticed I'm telling the story over and over again. If I just write a book or make a YouTube video about it, I wouldn't have to keep telling the same story. And so it turned into a book. It sat on my shelf for 3 years. I finally revamped it and kind of finished writing it and put the polishes on it. Then I had someone edit and look at it and give me some feedback. Then I fixed on that feedback. And then I finally read it. I was like, this is actually pretty good. Like if I'm interested in me, but nobody knows me enough to be interested in me. So then I rewrote it one last time, and it's like, tell just enough of the story to make the point so they can get the principle that they can apply in their life so that they too can experience this kind of growth. And it's been rewritten with the person in mind, the reader in mind. How can they get the most from this book? And so I've seen the principles work. I've seen how, mentoring and networking with other people and helping them to see the same things I saw, but in a shorter amount of time has actually worked. And so people would come to this meetup that we formed called M3 Plus. It's multidimensional mutual mentorship. And it's basically everyone has something to offer and everyone has something to gain. Everyone has something to gain and everyone has something to give. We're all mentors and mentees mutually. And so what happens when they come to our meetups is the juniors get to network with the seniors or the director level people, and it levels the playing field because the seniors get to see the value that the juniors have, and the juniors get to see that the seniors still have imposter syndrome. They still don't know what they're doing. They're still afraid, right? 20, 30 years into the profession, they still feel like they don't know what they're doing and someone's going to find out. Imagine that. And then they get to see that the juniors coming. Yeah, they got out of school, but there's something about their background and who they are that is going to add perfectly to this team or perfectly to this field or this discipline to potentially innovate and make it the best thing ever. But you would never know that because you're reading resumes and you're looking at portfolios online, and everyone's doing this cookie cutter portfolio and how it looks from like how school tells you to make it look. So the inspiration was I got tired of retelling my story over and over and over again. And so now that you asked me that question, I'm like, I really need to get back on finishing this, getting it published and getting it out there, because here I am. I'm telling an abridged version of the story. I don't want to go too long because I could go really long into the story. So just in a nutshell, I leveled up multiple times in a short amount of time by just putting to practice this framework. And I'll share with you real quick the greater framework. It's so it's GREATER, right? And so grounded in your unique story, reframing limiting beliefs, embracing continuous learning or challenges, whatever it is, just embrace it. Action-oriented goals, not just outcomes, right? Because we're in the business of action. The universe or God or whatever you believe in is the business of results. And then T, transition with purpose. So where are you going, but why are you going there? More importantly, because your why is going to drive you. And if you want to be great, you can stop there. GREAT. If you want to be greater, that's when you empower a network or empower the people around you and you have resilience in the face of setbacks. Because the difference between someone that succeeds and someone that doesn't is just they just showed up one more time, right? It felt like failure until they showed up that last time and it actually worked. Yeah, that's the basis of it, is taking those principles that have worked for me, that are timeless, that I see all the success come from, and then packaging it, putting it in a book, putting a bow on it, and saying, here, you too can receive this transformation.
Okay, I like that acronym. You're like me. You think in terms of acronyms, because I've never an acronym for sales. I've covered this on I've covered the first portion of it on the podcast, but I call it the grip formula that helps you with soft sales. But G stands for gather intelligence, R stands for reducing resistance, I stands for initiate action, and then P stands for position. And I've already done a podcast where I cover the G and the R, which is the soft sales portion of it. Then the I and the P is the more hard sales portion of it, if you so desire to go that direction. But yeah, acronyms are highly slept on, if you ask me.
They really are. And there was another. I have a friend of mine, Paul Franks. He's actually my financial advisor, and he came up with another acronym for greater that, like, I didn't even ask for it. It just, he can't help but think in acronyms, and so I loved it. It was goodness, I don't know where I saved. Oh, here it is. No, yeah, I'm not gonna find it right now. But it was, yeah, I can't remember. I thought it was in my notes, but it's not. So,
hey, sometimes that happens.
Oh, here it is. Literally right here. Giving requires,
It was staring you in the face, huh?
It was staring me in the face the whole time, and I was looking at technology, and it was on my good old trusty notepad. Giving requires empathetic action to empower reformation. That's another way of greater. And so, like, you know, if you're going to be greater, you're going to be greater by serving other people.
Right. That's pretty cool too. Now you got me kind of curious. How many versions of greater are there out there in terms of acronyms? I might Google that later. It's a very creative. It's something to be very creative.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways it could go, right? There's a lot of words that can substitute. There's even like other words I can substitute for what I have here, but I think this one stuck because of the foundational part, the grounding.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's a good, like, I know what I ultimately plan to do is, you know, you see the wheel of life for life coaching. So you got personal, finances, love, health. Like, there's all these, I think it's 8 different parts of your life.
Yeah.
And like, you measure how well you feel on a scale of 1 to 10 in those areas. And then the ones you feel less in, like, we balance those out. You look for balance in your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So having greater finances, greater business, greater relationships, like taking the greater framework and then reworking the acronym to work for that specific area of their life, and then writing a series of books so that literally anyone can level up from where they are, no matter what. So that's the big vision for it.
Gotcha. I'm looking forward to seeing that manifest. Now, I will say this could be people, you don't have to take this serious. Well, you could try it if you want. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to try it, but you want a challenge when it comes to acronyms, and you got to be conceited to do this, but I'm no more conceited than needed. And as long as you're not being entitled or hurting anyone, I don't even see being conceited as something that's bad. But come up with an acronym for your own name. That'd be an interesting experience.
No,
I'm not asking you. I'm putting it out there for the audience because it's something kind of interesting and entertaining. But it's not if you have this kind of intuition to come up with something on the cusp, I don't know what the hell you're doing, but you need to go and be like some kind of creative entrepreneur or something. The world needs to experience your brain. If you can just come up with something like that on the cusp, I'll say that.
I mean, with enough practice, I think they could. I really do. I believe in your audience, man. They show up for you and you give them value, and eventually their brain changes and the stuff will be able to come off the cusp. The guy, my financial advisor, gave me these. There was get results every game for Greg. Get results every game. It's like, I like that. And then he said, for Gregory, it was God relieves every grief openly revealing yourself. And so that spoke to the vulnerability that I use, like just naturally, me showing up as me, saying the things that no one else says, asking the questions no one else will ask, like being willing to be ridiculed so that people feel a part of rather than apart from, if that makes sense. Like you can come into a group of people that they seem so perfect. Like I'll use Christianity, right? You go to a church, you're trying to, and I can almost guarantee it's a lot harder to use any of these strategies we talked about in the setting of a church or a church family because of how fake some religious people can be. It's like, I am holier than thou. I do not sin. You shouldn't be doing this. You should be doing this. And like they're whacking you upside the head with the Bible. And then you find out they were sleeping with children, right? It's like, what? But
yeah, that does not compute.
It
kind of like how
I
go to a hospital and I see doctors smoking cigarettes.
That
part. Yeah. But
I digress.
I digress too. But I would say that we are in the process of winding the podcast down. But I always ask my guests if they have a question that they want to hit me up with about anything. But audience has banned the question, why did you start the podcast? They've heard it 5 times. They're like, done, we're not hearing that anymore. But do you have any questions you want to hit me with, G-Wiz?
I do, man. Why'd you start the
I said that for your safety. I don't want my audience to put a hit out on you. You've been warned.
No. So if you were someone that was wanting to apply what they just heard on this podcast today, where would you suggest they start?
Oh, that's a pretty deep question. I would say the best place that they could start is by setting a number of people that they should talk to per day. And it could be something small like 2, and you might be asking like, well, where am I supposed to meet these people? Unless you're literally staying inside the house. And you could even argue that you could even meet people on social media. That's actually not what I'm talking about. But actually leave the house. If you're just going to get groceries, one of the easiest places is the grocery store. And I'm not saying do this with any intention of selling anything. Just go and find a way of having a conversation. You could literally do this in the produce aisle at a Sprouts or Whole Foods or Walmart or wherever you find yourself at. And if you can do that inside the store, I mean, you're in the same aisle for the same reason, probably. Just apply some of what we talked about, have a conversation, and you'll start to feel how easy it is, and the awkwardness or just hesitation for you to interact with people starts to go away. That opens the doors to do that anywhere you go. The grocery store is the most, you're there all the time. And if you can do that there, think of every other place you go, whether it be, well, I don't think Radio Shack is even around anymore, but for instance, a Radio Shack, obviously there's the grocery stores. And we haven't even touched on events, which events are much, much easier to talk to people in general because y'all are there for the same reason, probably.
Yeah.
But if you can do it in a place like the store, you can really do it anywhere. And that opens the door to start doing anything else that we talked about.
Absolutely. Man, I'm glad I asked because what I was going to say is just get out there and try. Look stupid, fail, try again. You'll learn more from being in motion and taking action than you will from planning or thinking.
Right. Don't get caught up in analysis paralysis.
That part.
Yeah. So, G-Wiz, if people want to get more of you, where should they go? Like, how can they? I know you got a YouTube channel, so feel free to shout that out. And Facebook, like, how can people get more of you, whether it be your content? And we already said we're going to leave a link to your either pre-order your book or get your book if it's past that date in the description.
Okay. I appreciate that. So I am the official G-Wiz. anywhere you want to connect, except for Twitter, I'm just official G-Wiz. There's no the, but the official G-Wiz, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I just started another channel, and I'm in the process of moving all of my Question Everything things off of my official G-Wiz, because that's my music. So I think it's Question Everything Design for that YouTube channel. Let me pull it up real quick and see, just to make sure I'm not lying to y'all. Yeah, Question Everything Design. So at Question Everything Design, where I teach people how to design the life of their dreams with questions, because we should always be questioning everything. So thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm the only Gregory Kasim Rutledge, so you can also find me that way on LinkedIn. It's Gregory Rutledge with the sunshine emoji. But the official G-Wiz, you'll find me, and then everything is interlinked. I just sent the link tree. What is it? https://linktr.ee/Gregory Rutledge. All of my stuff is there. Would love to have people join in the greatest group ever on Facebook, literally the greatest group ever, where that's where I nurture all my people. I do group coaching Monday nights, 6:30 to 8:30. If you want to come, bring questions and see how we can help you implement these things you've learned here, or, you know, something you're stuck with that you don't quite have clarity on. That's what we're there for, is to help you get clarity. So I'm helping y'all bridge gaps, connect dots, and break silos. I'd love to connect with you. And the pre-order link, I dropped that in the chat as well. Go ahead and pre-order your copy of the book. I will get that workbook and that hidden chapter to you, and a signed copy of the book when the book is ready. It's only $20 for pre-order right now. So we'd love to have y'all get on board with this movement, and let's help the world be greater.
Nice. We appreciate you coming on, G-Wiz.
Yes, sir.
It's been this episode of the Side Hustlers Society podcast, everyone. You can give this video a thumbs up on YouTube. That's greatly appreciated. And subscribe if you're new. And if you're listening to us now on Spotify, since they have integrated video into their platform, if you could leave us a review on your thoughts on the podcast, we would greatly appreciate that. With that being said, everyone be safe, be profitable, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Peace.
This episode may be over, but your hustling journey has just started. Visit thesidehustlersociety.com to access all links and resources mentioned in the show that will help you on your hustler's journey.